Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Friday, July 24th. I'm not used to just having a collectible card game that just has one word in the name. Usually it's Hearthstone, which at least has 2 syllables. I guess Shadowverse also has 2 syllables, so I don't know why that's different. I guess I just got used to saying Magic the Gathering Arena or MTG online, MTGA. I never played Magic the Gathering online. So, the daily quests on this are kind of in like a little bit of a different lineup. Let's see, where are they're over here, the missions. So, the thing I need to do right now is win just 3 games, and we'll try and play ranked. I'm still very much in the introductory thing. And then in 4 hours, I'm going to have to do an arena run. Everything seems to be more on the Japanese time frame of midnight than a Eastern or Pacific United States time frame of midnight. What I've been doing, and this will be the accountability section, is the main story, and it's just super long. Like, it is 15 chapters, each with a battle for every single one of the leaders, which is 8. So you multiply 8 by 15, you've got 120 battles that are just extremely slow. They're not really puzzle battles or anything like that, and they're not really teaching me too much, because yes, I can get some pre-made decks. There's 8 pre-made decks for each of the leaders, which I guess means in total there's 64 pre-made decks, but it's I can learn that same amount of information just by playing the game normally in multiplayer, and it took me like 3 or 4 hours to do just the first one, playing all of the games on screen. And then after that I just said, you know what, forget it, I'm just gonna skip the battle, which thankfully this main solo story does allow you to skip the battles, and that way it just takes about an hour to go through each of these characters' stories. The stories aren't particularly good so far of the 3 I've done, because I've done this one. I just haven't gone back and done the battles, which you still have to do the battles. I'm just doing them off screen to save my sanity, not having to try to criticize the game, because the card game is a little bit simplistic. I would say this Runecraft Isabel story so far of the 3 I've done has been the best, and it's still not been particularly great. But you need to do these as a new player because you get rewards for doing them. And while 30 gold may not seem like much of a reward, it's probably the only rewards we're going to get other than daily rewards. And so there's a point to that. Now, the good news is that I have set it up. There's a checkbox you can click to get solo player daily rewards. So in about 4 hours, I will get a daily mission, hopefully, that is for a solo play. The bad news is this chapter probably has about 15 more battles. Then this chapter probably has another 120 battles. And then this chapter probably has another 15. Then this chapter probably has about 60 battles. Then another 15. Then another 60. Then another 15. Then another 15. This is inherently the problem with jumping into a collectible card game the 4th year into it. There's just so much catch up to do. But once I get the main story done, I don't think there'd be much reason to ever play practice mode. It's nice that it's there, but at a certain point, this whole section might as well just be hidden under the more button. We have a decent amount of gold. And it doesn't seem like the gold will be used for anything other than buying cards and other things at the shop and arena entries. So I don't think we're gonna have the Magic the Gathering problem where there's just constantly a new kind of draft and then another kind of draft and another kind of draft and then another kind of draft on top of that. There is a monthly season reward for your score, which that's where this is going to come into trouble. Come into play is playing ranked and getting my score up. This Dragoncraft was an automatically generated just by clicking the auto button deck, which is pretty bad. This Dragoncraft is a deck I actually went through the cards and tried to build, and you have 40 cards in the deck, and honestly I think I barely had 50 or 60 cards in total to play. And so the best one I imagine to play right now is just default. And I think we'll just go around in kind of a circle, probably avoiding Dragoncraft, which is particularly difficult, until I can get an idea of what is my deck that might win the most. There's a simple background option here that is kind of nice, because it's kind of nice if you were playing on a cell phone, but it's not terrible even if you're not playing on a cell phone, because this is the simple background. You get in this Coliseum area, and then there's just like no real animations to click on, and no things moving around at all, which is fine. Like I can see on a weak cell phone wanting to do that or wanting to save battery. But it keeps it pretty simplistic, so I'll probably turn off the simple background. One of the things that seems possible here, and it seems very weird, it seems like each of the leaders that are animated, like this is maybe pre-bought art and not custom art that you would expect it to have. And even if it is custom art, it's just way over the top with the decoration. Every single character that's female has long hair. Every single character that's female has way too much frilly stuff, way too many little accents, little bits of artistic elements to their clothing. And it's just extreme. And then you'll look at like the Dragoncraft guy, and his outfit is extreme in the fact that it's just all armor and complete armor. But it still doesn't really work
How much is in it for me?
the way I would like it to work. And then you kind of never get to see these characters show up in the single player mode, which you'd think you would see that at some point. But they don't show up at all. And so I wonder if there was a different artist that maybe made this art compared to this art, and I wonder if there's maybe two different artists. Let's see. I've still not been able to really figure out the tit-for-tat gameplay style of Shadowverse. But it does seem like that is kind of what happens, is that you very rarely go for the face, even though you very often could, because if you attack for the face, then you leave yourself exposed in a bad position. So, do we want to summon a zombie? Or do we want to try and defeat some things? And run for protection. I think you have to kind of just play for protection fairly often. As for the rest of the accountability section, since it's a Friday, probably want to go not super long today. I imagine, unless I get just extremely, extremely lucky, nobody will hop onto the chat. My insomnia is still crazy. That's still a thing to consider. Like, I'll be getting fairly sleepy fairly quickly. Okay.
Want to play?
Luminescence, shining hope.
There we go. I think that fairly worked. So, yeah, we'll just probably try to burn through the news, and then I'll maybe get some other recording done after I fall asleep at around noon, and then wake up around at 5 p.m. which is, for the summertime, is not a terrible time to really be asleep. Particularly right now with the whole pandemic situation, there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. Sleeping throughout the heat of the summer during the day is a great idea for probably a lot of people, but then there's probably a lot of people that couldn't get away with that. Like, it would be fairly crazy if you had kids to change their sleep schedules, even if you are willing to roll the risk that that they're not going back to school anytime soon. Let's see.
You intend to bury me? I'll show you.
Do that.
I am eternal.
I finished the old DOS game Pushover, the domino pushing game. I finished it by cheating quite a bit, in all honesty. And I was fairly frustrated with it, and I probably never beat Pushover when I was a kid playing it on a DOS PC. I probably just got bored with it and moved on. I think I probably beat a lot more games than I really did as a youth. Although there definitely were some that I beat. Like, I would not classify myself as just a total I don't know what the right phrase is there would be. Airhead might be the best term. But I bet there are a lot of things that I didn't really finish. Particularly when I was playing like NES era games, and Pushover was like a Super NES era game, so around that time, I definitely had a lot more time and a lot more consistency and desire to actually finish a game, make it all the way to the end. But
I did it! I won!
Yeah, I think Luna in particular, since she's this creepy gothic Lolita fashion style girl, and that's kind of the fashion of her clothing. Necromancer, I feel like they probably should have gone with something less fancy and a little bit younger looking, in the sense that I don't think having giant twin tail ponytails with hats on them is necessary, or having her have a frilly collar with a ribbon tie is necessary. This almost looks like an emblem for a school uniform, although in this universe it doesn't seem like there probably are schools. The little doll is a little too much. You could probably have a smaller doll and not emphasize it so much. The giant puffy skirt, they seem to like to do that with everyone, every single female character in the game. But her backstory is assumedly that her parents are dead, and she sees their ghosts, or she sees ghosts she thinks are her parents. So it would make sense if she was in kind of a more either torn up dress or just more casual dress. Like, even that outfit is much more realistic. They just went over the top, literally putting like a hat on a hat.
I guess you're looking for a fight.
Not literally, but almost to the point where it's literal. Putting hats on hair buns. I'm really shocked as far as the pushover game that nobody else has really tried to make a domino pushover puzzle game. You would have to learn a lot of lessons from pushover and not do what they did. I would say a good 60%, if not closer to 80 or 90% of pushover requires you to move super fast, and basically it's an action game where you're having to pick up dominoes and then run to the exact place where you need to drop that domino, so before a long chain of dominoes hits it. So you're just having to constantly move and do these high action things, and that's not really what you would expect from a domino pushover game. You would expect you would take your time, you'd set everything up, and then it would look amazing, much like the viral videos that have shown up several different times online. They show up about once a year. You'll see a viral video with a huge domino set up, and when it falls over, it's just amazing. The camera follows it usually, or there's a top-down view on the camera, and a bunch of dominoes fall down, and they like make a flag or some other picture. There's just a lot of ideas that could be done in a modern domino game. You could break up small sections of setting up a domino puzzle section, and then once you beat a whole chapter, you get to see the whole thing from beginning to end fall over as a reward. But you would definitely want it to be a puzzle game. You would definitely want it to not require any fast inputs. You definitely want it to be for mobile, and it probably wouldn't be too visually demanding, frankly, as a mobile game.
You intend to bury me.
So, yeah, there's a lot of work there. Pushover would have worked a lot better if it had kind of an overworld map and a linear story, because you got a lot of random backgrounds, but there was really no reason why the random backgrounds existed, and it wasn't really telling a story, like as if the ant character was going from the bottom of a dungeon to the top of a dungeon, and then deciding to get on a space station and walk around the space station, and then deciding to get inside of a computer and walk around the circuitry of a computer. A much more modern game, something that wasn't on a single floppy, would have had at least some text or explanation there. But overall, I think the main thing is pushover needed a major improvement as far as its testing of the puzzles, because I just don't think the puzzles were tested well enough. Man, I could have played that. Oops. And I'm not 100% sure that there weren't a couple of puzzles that were just literally impossible. And when you get to the 100th puzzle, it hides what you can see, so it is nearly impossible, although I wasn't actually capable of figuring it out. But it did just kind of like feel like a final FU to the player. Here's the last puzzle. Good luck trying to figure it out. You can't see what the pieces are. There is a code, which I was using the cheat codes all over to reveal what the pieces are, but
It won't be long now.
But yeah, that sucks. And then the fact that there was no way to skip levels or get any hints or see perhaps the intended solution, because it definitely feels like there were a few times when I solved a puzzle with an unintended solution. Okay. Just go ahead and evolve this. But yeah, by the time I was done with Pushover, I really didn't have anything more to say with it. I definitely did a weird thing here, and I'm just in this weird position, and will be for probably a week or two, where I am both like,
the king reigns again.
Let's see. I'm both focusing on playing and streaming Shadowverse on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I'm also pre-recording the solo player element of Shadowverse as the thing that I'm focusing on. So it's just going to be Shadowverse all day, all night until I get that single player content done. For better or worse.
Come out, wherever you are.
Okay. Do we want to evolve this up? A couple more?
Want to play? Unbelievable!
So yeah. In my effort to alleviate playing the same game back to back was to play Pushover, but that just made more recordings that are sitting in my hard drive now, and I'm kind of constantly gonna be in a problem where I need to schedule videos so I can upload videos so I can have more room. Hey, we got a win streak bonus. Nice. So as long as we keep winning, we'll keep riding the victories. The level that this score gets up to is pretty high. I think it's somewhere around 45,000 or so. So there's still a lot of room to potentially succeed in.
Is fighting and despair all you know?
Well, let's start covering the video game news. We have kind of a decent amount, but I don't know if there's a ton. There is this Indiegogo / Kickstarter, I don't know what it is, for the multi-pass BLE mode model. Unfortunately, it's like $90 to fund it to get one, which is really, really expensive, but you may not get anything better. What the multi-pass is, or tool pass, or something like that. It's on hackaday.com. If you scroll down there, most 10 or 20 recent posts as of right now. It's a password keeper that also has like a secure card reader. So you give a card to like everybody who you want to use it, like every member of your family, basically, or maybe every member in your office, and then you plug it into this little box that keeps the passwords and then you have to put in a pin with the card, so it's something you know and something you have, and then it will type in the password into a computer or cell phone for whatever website you select by a little icon and jog wheel, which is definitely better than most people's systems, which will boil down to usually just having a
Come out wherever you are.
like book, a little notebook, or post it under your desk with passwords on it. It keeps all your passwords in one place, and it allows an ease of access by only putting in a pin instead of a long password and then having to have the card. Whereas then the actual codes that it, I think, automatically generates are going to be super long and complicated and things you would never, hopefully never have to know. There is a risk of losing the device and then losing all your passwords, so that's a concern, certainly. But I bet there's probably a way to back it up a little bit.
Join us?
Okay. If I evolve this one.
I just want someone to. Can I go with you?
So that might work a little bit better. It's something I'd like to get, and it's fully open source both in the hardware and the software, so you could build your own. If you try to build your own, though, you're probably going to cost more than $90 to get something that the quality of the device that they're kickstarting for. I can in no way attest to whether things tend to get cheaper or more expensive after Kickstarter. They seem to, at least originally, seem to always imply that it's going to be more expensive. But that is probably in part just hype to get people to kickstart the things. This game is interesting. It has the abilities fade in and fade out, so you kind of know that they really don't plan on having a lot of cards that have a whole bunch of abilities. If anything, Shadowverse is a real nice, simplistic take on a collectible card game without being too simplistic. That being said, it does kind of have the feeling that for 4 years in, it does have a little bit too few cards, but that also means there aren't too many garbage cards. So if you didn't want to spend $90 on the multipass, the other way to do this would be to simply let Google Chrome decide to suggest strong passwords and keep the passwords saved in Google Chrome. That works fairly well, except for the fact that you're almost certainly giving your password control directly to Google, which, putting your faith in Google, is probably not the best move. But I did want to mention that. There's also a device called the Busy Box that is like an on-air recording sign that just started a Kickstarter Indiegogo too. That unfortunately is selling for like, I think it's like $120 for one that doesn't have a LCD screen. So instead you just put a insert and some LEDs light up to say on air. And if you want one that actually has an LCD screen that can say different things, I think that's at like $210. So it's like just really, really expensive, and it's selling itself as though it isn't that expensive when it obviously is, which is kind of ridiculous. I would love a device like that, but I'm not willing to to buy that at that price. And I don't know how useful it would be really for me. Well, so much for my win streak. Wasn't expecting to get a huge win streak. It's a little weird to have two bars going up at the same time. There's a programmable watch that is coming out sometime next year that I was thinking about potentially trying to program like the multipass, but I'm not sure if it would really work because there's a question about whether there is a actual secure chipset in the programmable watch, and maybe it doesn't really matter in all reality, because somebody would then have to basically take the watch apart to get the codes out of it. But there is a secure chipset in like the iPhones, and even if you never really need it, it's kind of nice to have it. And I think that's enough talking about Kickstarters. I've never actually funded any Indiegogo Kickstarter, and I typically tell people don't fund video games at all. Don't fund anything that's not a finished product completely. And really, I should take my own advice. Need to end my own turn also, instead of looking at my Twitter feed. The Xbox presentation happened. They showed about six games. They announced a new Fable. They started it off probably quite wisely by showing a Halo trailer. There was, besides the Fable and the Halo trailer, though, I'm not sure I could really mention anything else off the top of my head. I know Psychonauts 2 was shown, and for a brief second there I thought they had Jack Black back to sing a song, so I thought maybe, just maybe, we were going to run into a situation where the
Let's have a sweet time.
Take that!
Yeah, I was thinking we might run into a situation where they would surprise announce a Brutal Legend 2 or a remaster of Brutal Legend 1. Either one of those would be really interesting. But I imagine if you're going to take anything out from the fact that Jack Black was singing a song for Double Fine, take it as an indication that Double Fine's CEO is just kind of been given free reign with Microsoft's money to do whatever he pleases, and so he's going to waste it. This does 2 damage to me, and then it destroys an enemy follower. Let's see. Alright. This.
Let's have a sweet time.
And then evolve
You will soon learn.
What a
to the
banquet.
Sweet Fang
Tasty.
Vampire. That gets me some more health.
Take that!
And we can do that. But because I got my health up, I think my vengeance concept went back up to 10. Interesting.
Will not surrender.
Let's see. Damage to leader needed to activate
I'm
vengeance.
so hungry.
It needs to be 10, yeah. But yeah, overall, it was a very game-centric game show for the Xbox presentation. PlayStation fanboys could easily watch it and say it was nothing. Xbox fanboys could easily watch it and say it was everything. And the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. So, yeah. They did start by showing a list of basically all the studios they've bought, and then they only showed games from probably about half of the studios that they have. And then they promised some more announcements later on. Okay, game plus 2+2. Gain Storm. And I could evolve it to a 6/5. 3 damage to an enemy.
Rage empowers me.
I feel like playing as the vampire clan is probably
Cowardly creatures.
not a smart move for a new player.
I can devour your dreams.
Like, I just don't think I'm gonna be able to manage my life that well.
My life ends, but my vision abides.
We have a game on Steam here called the Surreal Imaginarium, which either is a bunch of Unity asset flips or a surreal like VR experience that is kind of an on-rails visual experience. I imagine that's what it is. It's an on-rails visual experience. I don't know if I would want a twisting hallway when I was playing VR. It's $3.59, which is way too cheap for a VR game. And it's English and Spanish. So, yeah. As a VR game, I would have to say no. 5 to an enemy. And then charge there. And I can kill that. But I still lose. It's kind of hard to concede in Shadowverse because you have to pull up the menu then quit. But it's not really any harder than to concede with other things. Yeah, I don't think that would ever work for us. But you know, just banging my head against the wall and trying each character is fine until I get them to the max level, which might take a ton of time. And I keep seeing more and more of these backgrounds. They kind of seem like they never stop. I feel like some of them might be bought by the other players. So there might be an element to that also plays. TechRaptor has a review for Chiron, or Carrion. I saw some people covering this, and my concern was the controls. I know one person loved it, but they were playing with mouse and keyboard, and they said that was better than the controller. And then the other person that played it said the controls might be a little bit of an issue. But otherwise, they seem to love it, except for the lack of the map. And you can see TechRaptor here has given it a 8.5. They say Carrion is a delightfully gruesome game that has just as many puzzles as it does actions, with pros being unique control scheme and mechanics, useful upgrades, diverse and challenging enemies, and a mix of combat and puzzles. The only con being that navigation can be confusing. And I think they're getting that feedback enough that it's somewhat believable that they may very well opt to to fix the game and add a map at some point in the future. Patch it. But really good news in that case, because amongst the very few AA or even single A games that have come out and not just been pushed away to a later release date, this Carrion is probably the first one in a while that actually sounds like a good game on top of it. We've had some games that have come out and they've either gotten bad reviews or they've gotten middling reviews. What does Countdown do? I don't know how Countdown works. I guess I should probably know how the game works first and foremost. Next we have a game on Steam called COVID-19 Biohazard, which is probably a horror asset flip first person shooter zombie game. Although it looks fairly good when the screenshots want to load. I guess the question is, at $12.99, English and Spanish in Latin America, is there actually a game here? Like, the video that's being shown here is in a tiny little window. Yeah, it seems like it's suffering some heavy dark screenshot syndrome and some rather large lighting issues. And yeah, it is just an asset flip skeleton that they're fighting. At least that's one of the enemies. Okay. Let's see. Play this.
Light upon the land.
Evolve this. What does this do when it evolves, by the way?
Luminescence.
It just becomes a 7/5. Okay.
Shining hope.
And then hit that.
This wasn't worth it.
Then in the turn. I think pretty much anything with COVID in the name is probably a no-go. Because even if it wasn't just a low effort troll game or a low effort asset flip game, it would become probably banned and not promoted on YouTube.
My lord.
They wiped out all my stuff. Next we have a game on Steam called Gnome and Company, The Art of the Build, which I think is kind of like a shape building game, kind of like Tetris, but not quite. Doesn't really look like there's much here though. Yeah, they're tagging this as a programming game and a puzzle game, and I'm not sure I'd really call it either. It's $14.99, English, allegedly full audio. Let's see. Summon a Holy Flame Tiger. Restore 5 defense to an ally. Bash an enemy follower. That worked fairly well. I believe the medium was one of the games that was shown. The medium details and screenshots, according to Gematsu for Xbox Series X and PC, play in 2 worlds at the same time. I think we already talked about this though, also. So, yeah, but I believe there was a trailer. There is wide speculation, and I'll leave it at speculation, that the Xbox Live Gold plan may be kind of phased out, in the sense that they might stop requiring you to have Xbox Live Gold for like streaming services such as Netflix, or for online play, things along that line. And instead they're going to try and just focus on selling the Xbox Live Platinum, or whatever the season pass is that gives you the free games and the streaming service, and all the new offerings. And that would be definitely a blow to PlayStation and their PlayStation Now service, which is increasingly getting less useful from what I hear. The free games program for both PlayStation and Microsoft are probably going to fall apart, in the sense that there's not too many more good old games even to potentially give away. So, yeah. Probably wouldn't hurt if they went around in a circle and offered some games that they'd offered before. But yeah, that would probably not be a very appealing offer. There was some hope at the Xbox presentation that there would be some kind of Perfect Dark announcement, but there wasn't. Okay.
Open your eyes.
Do this.
My sword.
And then do this.
No way.
And then play this. Yeah, these wars of attrition. They just take forever to actually win. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. The Scarlet Nexus producer Kita Lizuka? I've never seen an L-I before. Anyways, he discusses inspirations, past experience, world, and character design, which is cool. And more on the upcoming action RPG from Bandai Namco. So they have a little bit of an interview here, which you would expect, frankly, to hear more interviews and things like that happening, as people don't have like anything else to talk about. But it doesn't seem like it happens. It in a weird way, it seems like most mainstream video game journalists in the West have just done less work.
Now, let's have a look-see.
And I guess we're in a weird position where I doubt any real boss is holding anybody to any real accountability as far as needing to cover a certain number of games or getting a certain number of articles. I imagine everything just is collapsing on itself. Like, we may have literally hit end stage capitalism here.
How dare you!
Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Galvadia, which looks like it's some kind of nature game that's pretty ugly and probably just asset flips. It's early access for $24.99, English with allegedly full audio. Yeah. One of the big video game reviewers who's been like reviewing games for 10 years. I believe it's one of the guys that was embroiled in the Gamergate and was dating the creator of, or sleeping around with the creator of Depression Quest. Like, he decided to do an article talking about how he upgraded his gaming rig,
Open your eyes.
and in describing his old gaming rig, he literally was just playing on a gaming laptop, and he had like nothing at all. No monitor, no keyboard, just a gaming laptop sitting on top of a couple books on like a plastic table.
My lord.
Which, frankly,
Welcome to the
if somebody
single
revealed that the whole
dreams.
article was just a joke and a troll, I would believe it. But then we've also seen instances where people have made videos putting together computers and they literally don't have a clue what they're doing at all.
The Lord wills it.
And it really goes to show just how quickly a lot of these things that pretend like they're respected are in actuality just content farms trying their very best to just shove out articles and put ads on it. I would say personally, everyone who's a video game critic should probably have at least a $1,500 to $1,500 or more gaming setup. $1,500 is about right, I would say. You shouldn't be playing on a gaming laptop as your main computer. Perhaps if you were
How much is in it for me?
reviewing a game from the perspective of, will it play on a gaming laptop? Maybe, but at a certain point you're more reviewing the gaming laptop than the game itself. If you're playing on a gaming laptop,
Worth it.
you should have a controller to plug into your computer,
How much is in it for me?
whether it's a Xbox One or a PlayStation controller. You should probably have all the consoles in some format. And it really is just a statement on, are you going to invest in yourself? Coming from someone who's overinvested himself and in the past wanted to work in IT and did eventually work in IT, I bought probably close to $4,000 to $5,000 worth of different computers over the course of 10 to 15 years. The reason I have a server is to have a home lab and to learn IT stuff and do my own little projects. The reason I had a computer to game on in the first place was in anticipation and preparation to work in the IT field.
This is grave.
Kind of in the same way that if you were working in an office, you're probably expected to have a suit, or at least some slacks, and a nice button-up shirt and things like that, or at least a shirt that's not a t-shirt.
I pray that you will be freed from suffering.
And if you're not willing to invest in that, and you're going to show up in your office job on day one in torn-up jeans and a t-shirt, then don't be surprised when you get sent home or get fired. At a certain point, dress for success in the field of being a video game critic or working in IT does mean having some level of equipment. You don't have to have a ton of equipment. Don't have to have anywhere as much IT stuff as I did. But, you know, if you're literally running a Chromebook, or very often I'd be shocked by how many people either got away with or thought they were going to get away with just using an Apple laptop or a MacBook while working in IT field. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's almost certainly not going to happen. This is an interesting card. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Demetria Spirit, which is tagged as a hidden object game, but I would call it more of a Stardew Valley game. But if it's so badly labeled here, I'm thinking this is probably a Chinese game that doesn't really know what it is. If I was to guess, it probably doesn't play very well. It's early access, $6.99, English only. But I'll stick by the claim that it's a Chinese developer because the developer's name is Yamu Zhong. Regardless, there's better Stardew Valley games out there, and I didn't like Stardew Valley in the first place, so I wouldn't want to play it. Let's see. Let's go and play
How much
this.
is in it for me?
Next, we have a game on Steam called It Steals, which looks like it's an asset flip, ugly,
This wasn't
pixelated first-person shooter. And that just looks horrible. $3.99, English full audio. I should probably stop saying allegedly full audio, even though that probably is more accurate. It's not worth my time to make those distinctions.
Light upon the land.
This next game is tagged with sexual content, so let me make sure it's YouTube family friendly. Well, yes and no. In what is probably a first for Steam, this game Cute Honey has put the images of the nudity on screenshots, and then they put the Japanese breed of dog, the Shinibu Itsu, I believe is how you pronounce it. That very recognizable dog. They've basically used that image of that dog over and over again to cover up all the naughty bits. So I kind of could show it, but it would still be kind of like a fairly heavy implication. Like when one of the screenshots is an anime girl with both of her legs up in the air, and you're directly looking towards her crotch with a dog in front of it, I think you pretty well know what that image would be. Regardless, Cute Honey, not to be confused with Cutie Honey, the anime series. Well, actually, there's been several of them. Is rated very positively. It's $1.59. It has English, French, German, Spanish, and Russian, and probably some other languages by the looks of it. And I'll say the animation doesn't look bad, but it seems like you're betting a girl in a maid outfit, and and a pink-haired girl with elf ears that might be a succubus. I think it's a succubus. So there doesn't seem like there's as much variety as you would like.
I live by the sword.
The real battle begins.
I faith in my blade. Take that.
My lord.
I don't think I'm moving very fast today. Yeah, this is kind of a consistent problem where I start losing steam. We still have a lot to do. I don't have anything really to do daily quest wise. Although there still is kind of a problem I would generally complain about in this game, because you do seem to
Let us conclude.
you do seem to always have one daily quest that requires you to do something. Either maybe it's not going to be a bunch of things, but at a certain point I am going to have to start skipping some of the daily quests. Even though Shadowverse does have a mobile version, I don't want to get into a habit where I'm playing Shadowverse consistently as much as I was playing Magic Arena, or if anything, I want it to be less time. I'd like to get some of those hours back. And at a certain point I was even thinking about dropping one of the stream days, but yeah, I don't know. That would be a hard decision to make. Certainly, and I don't know if people would appreciate it, and they probably wouldn't.
Save these pitiful lambs. Open your eyes. No.
Does this just never attack, or does it just get defeated? Gamma Sutra has a job listing here for Remedy Entertainment as a technical director in Helsinki, Finland. I feel like that there's been a Remedy Entertainment job listing almost every week in the past month. Although that very well may not actually be the case.
The Lord wills it.
Okay. What are we gonna do? Banish an enemy follower, restore X defense, X equals the follower's defense. Okay. That works well. And put that on the field. And then an attack here. Gamma Sutra has an article here. The Xbox closes its Q4 with gains in hardware revenue and record engagement. So their claims at their shareholders meetings is everything is going great, which they tend not to overtly lie at shareholders meetings, or at least they lie in ways in which they won't get caught.
Oh, Serpent King.
Finish something with 3 or less.
Unbelievable! I earned my fair share.
Might as well play it. And see, the craziness here is they're gonna find some way to defeat all 3 of these guys and clear the field with 1 card.
My king.
Stop! This wasn't worth it.
Nope. Actually succeeded. Take that victory.
Looks like you won.
Now, I'm not sure that there's a system here
From suffering.
where you actually lose score, at least at this rank. Maybe later on. See, we're getting little achievements done, which will give us other rewards. As long as we're winning, we might as well keep playing. TechCraft has an article. A new Godfall Valor plate and game details are revealed in a developer interview. It would be helpful, though, if I could remember what Godfall is. Seems like it might be a RPG, action RPG game. I don't know if heavy armored people with swords is really what I would want to play. But they have a whole interview there, I guess, if it interests you.
Is fighting and despair all you know?
This one's for my family.
Let's see. Komatsu has an article. Hellpoint for the Switch has been delayed to later in 2020. The PS4, Xbox One, PC, Mac, and Linux versions are due out as planned. We're still occasionally getting stories like this where the Switch versions take a little bit more time. And frankly, the Switch versions of a lot of games tend to need a little bit more polish. Sometimes more polish than they actually get. So, not super surprised. Let's see, I guess we play this. And then we could do this next turn and speed it up. TechRaptor still has their advertisement with Nutaku. A game called Magical Amy DX has pre-registrations open. Which, don't know what kind of game it is other than it's a free-to-play game. It's with magical girls. Let's see. I'm still playing the College Town game from Nutaku, but I also cheated on that, so there's something to take from that. But I think I may very well eventually run out of things to do with it, because I've fairly quickly caught back up to where I was. Whereas the other Nutaku game, War of Venus, that I was going to try, I haven't found any free time to even launch that, so I may actually just uninstall it. And save myself some frustration. And then at a certain point, I probably need to reevaluate what I'm wasting my life on. Speaking of adult games, on Destiny Child's new Ragna Break is happening, and they have on their load screen a anime girl in a bikini that is barely even on. It is quite lewd, even by Destiny Child's terms, as a cell phone game. So they're going hard, I suppose, with this event. And yeah, the game still works great. I'm still liking it as much as I liked it before. The constant new content will be the difference between like College Days and Destiny Child. Like the fact that College Days will probably not add enough content fast enough, where Destiny Child constantly adds new content that's just not comparable to any other game I've found on Android. It's kind of a shame it is an adult game, because it would be a fairly nice game to just have in your pocket to recommend to everybody to play. But clearly, as an adult game, you can't really recommend it to kids. But I guess you can always just tell kids to play Fortnite. And I imagine kids are the ones that are looking for games on cell phones more than anybody else. TechRaptor has an article here. Ghost of Tsushima is selling out in Japan. From every report I've seen, and I've seen 2 or 3 of them at least, people are loving Ghost of Tsushima in Japan. there seems like there was some SJWs complaining about it being unrealistic. But one of the game creators that was Japanese says, don't worry about being unrealistic. We literally put mechs in all of our anime. Like, we don't care one bit about realism in our entertainment. And I think that is a fair statement. Does definitely seem to be the case. Yeah, I'm trying to think, has there ever even been a historically accurate or even slightly realistically historically accurate anime?
I'd do anything for glass.
No, I don't think so. Like when they have a show that is based off romance in the Romance of the 12 Kingdoms, and they turn it into a fighting game with a bunch of big-breasted anime girls. Yeah, there's literally not been anything that's been historically accurate. I'm not sure the Japanese particularly even care much about history, and there's a good reason for that. If they start looking into their own history, they're going to very quickly have to address some war crimes that happened a couple generations previous, at best. It's kind of how Germany doesn't really focus heavily on history. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called The Feud Wild West Tactics, which looks like it is a Western strategic placement game. Let's see. $26.99 is rather expensive. English full audio. Screenshots are not wanting to load today. I think there might be a game here though. This doesn't look low effort. When you look at these screenshots, it doesn't look amazingly polished, but I think there's something here enough to put it on the follow list and see what people have to say. Alright.
Light upon the land.
And then this.
Let us conclude.
Luminescence.
And then
Shining
this.
hope.
You're so tiny.
And then this. And then in the turn. See. TechCrypto has an article here. BioWare confirms a new Dragon Age game is still in development, which is not really to say anything other than, yes, a Dragon Age game is still in development. Okay, cool. I guess that kind of gives you more time to go back and potentially play the old Dragon Age games if you wanted to and felt the need to. This is 2. This is 2. This is 3. So that's 7. So I can do all of these. Yeah, do this. And then do this. And then do this. Then attack here, and here, and here. TechRaptor has an article here. Lord of the Rings Online and Dungeons and Dragons Online, I believe, are giving away tons of quests to keep. Free friends content forever. I don't think I'd ever want to play either one of those games though, so I'm more than happy to not bother to get these. Lord of the Rings quest packs, there's a whole list here, and expansion quests. Then a whole bunch of Dungeons and Dragons Online. Yeah, it's a little surprising both Lord of the Rings Online and Dungeons and Dragons Online are not more popular, but it does probably make a great testament as to just how, while Dungeons and Dragons has never been supplanted by anything or superseded by anything, it has also never succeeded at being anything but a niche game. It's made a little bit of a progress for a brief amount of time, and then people lost interest fairly quickly. And I think that probably just comes down to Dungeons and Dragons core gameplay design being way too slow.
I pray that you will be freed from suffering.
Yeah, I seriously doubt I could ever sit through a full game of Dungeons and Dragons, even knowing that it would be over the course of perhaps many weeks or even a year. I don't know if I could even put up with the same people on a monthly basis or weekly basis over a year. Dungeons and Dragons in a lot of ways is the antithesis of man, I don't think I pronounced that right. I'm getting more tongue-tied these days. It's like the opposite of most video games, in the sense that it's just not fast, it's not really interactive. It requires you to use your own creativity instead of video games putting the art and the audio and the story in front of you. It's a very, very active gameplay style compared to video games, which can be fairly passive while still being fairly interactive. They're somewhere in the middle, I would say. Moving on, we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters, and it looks like it's probably a Chinese visual novel if I was to guess, considering how there's some screenshots with blank backgrounds being shown quite a bit. And then a wall of text, that's another standard screenshot trick. English not supported, $3.99. It's being compared to the Nonary games, and it is Chinese. Yep. So I was not wrong there. I do occasionally get wrong. Next we have a game on Steam called Tiny Poker, which looks like a fairly badly drawn with a marker girl. So it's more of a Western female character. I wouldn't really call her an anime girl. And then you have here a fairly ugly interface for poker. People can do better than this by far. This is not worth $1.99 in modern time. It may have been worth $1.99 a long time ago. It's English and Japanese. It's definitely trying to sell itself as Japanese, but if this is a Japanese artist, this was like something a Japanese artist drew 20 years ago. Or they just have a very distinctive style or a complete lack of skill. One or the other. And honestly, if you're just going to play poker, which that mostly look like video poker or an equivalent, if you're going to play that, why not play it on a cell phone? Why not play it on a website even? Moving on, we have a article for the Switch. Hoshi wo Miru Hito for the Switch launches July 30th. And this looks very 8-bit graphics. This was originally launched in 1987 in Japan for the Famicom, so I guess that's explainable as to why it's 8-bit graphics. Alright. What do we want to do? Track 2, draw a card. Play this.
I live by the sword.
Do this.
You're done for.
I faith in my blade.
Do
Take
this.
No more corpses.
I had to do a lot of work there to protect this. But because I played badly. Gamatsu has an article here. Umahari Kawase Bazooka for the PS4 and Switch have been delayed to September 29th in the West. No longer coming out in July. More and more things getting delayed. This was the Smash Brothers clone, kind of, player versus player of the Umahari Kawase brand. Which they've really put out a lot of games starring of the Umahari Kawase series, more than it probably should have, or should. Is this guy gonna play? Or is he just gonna concede? Who's having network trouble? Let's play that game. Who's having network trouble? Is it me? Is it them? Are they just thinking, or are they having network trouble? Am I gonna get accused of stalling a game once again? Oh man, that was just totally us. Like, don't make accusations that are untrue. Wizards of the Coast. You just make yourself look bad. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Hanfield Asylum, which looks like it's probably an asset flip horror game with dark screenshot syndrome. Honestly, I don't know what would even sell me on playing a game set in a scary asylum at this point. It's become so cliche. This is discounted to $4.13, English only. Yeah, there's no way. No way. Even when you were in the asylum in like BioShock 2, even at that, or was that BioShock 3? Yeah, actually I think that may have been BioShock 3. Even then, it was fairly cliche.
The real battle begins.
There we go.
You beckoned?
Next we have a game on Steam called Raging Fist Retribution, which looks like it's a fighting game, but it looks fairly unpolished. Yeah, I don't see any reason why I'd put this on the follow list. $10.49 discounted, third-party EULA, English, and allegedly full audio. What is Fantasy Strike's reviews these days? Still mixed. It's mostly positive, but most recently, in the last 30 days, it's still mixed. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Fantasy Strike is ever gonna... It's not on my follow list even anymore. I must have decided to take it off, and I think that's probably the right decision. Let's see. This has a ward.
Light upon the land.
And we can evolve
Let
that.
us conclude.
Luminescence. Shining
that.
hope.
I'll live again.
Why can I not attack with these? Reasons. See. Next we have a game on Steam called Roki, which is tagged as a female protagonist snow game, where it seems like you're kind of doing an adventure game, kind of like a point and click adventure game in a snowy environment. $16.99, a bunch of languages. It looks interesting enough to deserve a follow. It is progress. Although it may not seem like it's progress, it is actually progress if we hit a point where even bad games start to look really good and really interesting. Even if they're reviewed terribly. There's a lot of games like that already, but that percentage, the percentage of games that look interesting but play terribly, is way smaller than the percentage of games that look like absolute garbage and there was no chance of them ever being good in the first place. Okay.
Save these pitiful lambs.
What is the deal with these guys that they can't attack half the time?
Oh, Serpent King.
I feel like the game might be slightly glitched. I should have been able to attack with that. I feel like it should have been. Alright, next we have a game on Steam called Meteor Fall Crummets Tale, which this might be a demo of a bigger game. It's already on my follow list. It's a sequel to a game called Meteor Fall. And it seems like it's some kind of slide puzzle game. I'm calling it a roguelike deck builder for $13.49. English, full audio, a bunch of other languages. It's rated very positively. Is Meteor Fall itself actually? Yeah, this is a collectible card game. So, let's see about Meteor Fall. Is it on Steam? Yeah, it seems like the first game, Meteor Fall, might not be on Steam. Well, I'll leave that on the follow list, but by all rights, it's past the requirements to put it on. This player, the follower was played this turn. No, it was not. There's some BS on this. Do this.
Right upon the land.
Do this.
How much is in it for me? I stand at the edge of eternity. My lord.
Just attack and win. Gosh, what in the world was going on there? It's just not letting me attack on several attempts. Either that or I was just not paying attention. But we're getting like a really decent win streak bonus, I think. But it doesn't seem like it's increasing much, really. Because the bonus itself seems to only be about 50, whereas beating somebody seems to be worth about 100 or 200. But as long as we keep winning, I'll keep playing as Eris, and that works fine for me. TechRaptor has an article here. Creative Forge announces the Phantom Doctrine 2, the Cabal. I don't think the Phantom Doctrine 1 was well received, though, so them announcing a sequel is maybe a mute point, to say the least. But maybe there's something they can accomplish in the sequel that they failed to accomplish in the first one. Although that would be a hard sell, certainly, to try and convince people to play the sequel to a game that people didn't really like the first one. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. Eri and the Secret of Seasons launches September 1st. And we may have seen this before. It's coming out for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC on Steam. See if we can see a little bit of its trailer. I had that pop-up not popping up for a while. Oh yeah, that reminds me, there was a kind of weird game that had a brief trailer in the Xbox presentation where it was like 3 shamans that somehow brought back to life a deer or something, and that summoned like a deer god. I think is what I was looking at. I mean, that's a weird description, but that kind of seems like that was what happened in the trailer. And yeah, it looks slightly interesting. Phantasy Star Online 2 Regenesis was also announced for the Xbox Series X, which is going to be kind of a remaster of Phantasy Star Online that I think is going to run parallel to Phantasy Star Online 2. So people still playing Phantasy Star Online 2 can still play it. But the Regenesis version will probably just have better graphics, if I was to guess. Seriously. There's something about the Holy Flame Tiger that is not being said about its ability. Let's see. In this turn, Holy Flame Tiger was created. So, in that case, that's true. But in the next turn, I should be able to play this. Well, now I can't play it. Yeah, I don't know what the name of that game with the shamans was, though.
Light upon the land.
You were done for.
Luminescence.
I might lose here. Unless that was their only play. This next game is tagged sexual content, and I don't think I'll show it just to be maintain YouTube family friendliness. But we have a game on Steam here called Dreamcatcher that is a very, very easy game of Minesweeper by the looks of it. Very small board with very few mines, like 5 mines in what is probably, I'd say 22 by 27 grid. No, 22 by 7 grid. That's how small it is. This game, Dreamcatcher, is $1.21 and it's English and Chinese. So we're still getting low effort adult games on Steam. It always is that weird feeling that you basically have to go conspiratorial, but it seems like there might be some truth to the conspiratorial thought that Valve is intentionally allowing just low effort garbage adult games on their storefront so that nobody is satisfied, so they can say, well, we are allowing adult games, but then whenever there's ones that they don't like because either they are more of a quality visual novel, but have maybe an art style that's a little too young in the moe anime art style, they reject those. It's kind of hard to not believe any conspiracy as far as like manipulating public opinion when you clearly see it happening more and more. People are getting banned from Patreon, people are getting banned from Twitter. A lot of those people, rightfully so, should have probably been banned, but it doesn't seem like it's an even-handed application of rules ever. Let's see. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called The Last Savior, which looks like it might just be a asset flip game from the looks of it. Yeah, this is way too many different locations for screenshots to show the exact same gun and have like no enemies in front of any of that.
I won't let my sins define
This is
me.
early access for $8.99. It's English and Russian. It clearly is just an asset flip game. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Paper Beast, which looks like a VR game where you're guiding around like kind of origami creatures, which could be interesting, but it's VR only and it probably is fairly simplistic. It's $17.99, bunch of languages. I'd say if you have VR, think about Paper Beasts. Personally, more and more I think I need to stop putting VR games even on the follow list, so I'm not going to bother to do it in this case. Let's see.
I live by the sword.
Next we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters. It looks like a Chinese Diablo clone, for lack of a better description. And it seems to just have all the trademarks of a Chinese Diablo clone, with way too much on the screen, way too much text. English not supported, free with in-app purchases. Oops. They're upset with me for not playing. Maybe we should see if we could emote here. I moved all the mouse buttons, so I don't know how to emote. I don't think I can, since I moved all the mouse buttons around. Let's see. Gain rush.
You know my master? Cleansing mode.
Attack.
Take
And
that.
attack here. Next we have a game on Steam called Penny's Path, which looks like it's a hand-drawn, terribly drawn game. Visual novel, I guess, is the best word to call it. $5.99 discounted English full audio. Yeah, looks terrible. Put a puppet in your hand. Put a puppet here. Goliath.
Take that.
Do that. Probably the best move. Yeah, Gematsu has this article It's called Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. It will coexist with Phantasy Star Online 2. And I imagine it's still the same game. They may still be adding content to Phantasy Star Online, but you know, but they're not canceling the old thing.
Welcome to the city of hopes and dreams.
Alright, follow this.
Coming at you.
Welcome to the city of nightmares and despair.
Here. And
Do
here.
you know my master?
And okay, so now what does this do? Destroy this faller at the end of the turn. Forget that. We'll get rid of that.
Cleansing mode.
Take that!
See, Gamatsu has an article here. New Angleek for Switch titled Angleek Luminary Sea.
Serpent King.
It has been delayed to 2021 in Japan. This looks like a dating visual novel, if I was to guess. Yeah, Otome, young maiden visual novel. Yep, and I haven't heard anything about it up until this point, and it's already delayed, which that says something. Animate from your deck into your hand, the puppet into your hand. So if I put this on the field, and then this on the field, and we evolve this,
Now the fight begins.
and we hit this,
My king.
Take
and then
that!
kill that. See, next we have a game on Steam called Auto Chess War, which is probably a very late to the party Auto Chess clone by the looks of it. And I guess Auto Chess probably does play a lot different than the Auto Chess mode that is in Hearthstone. Somewhat different, at least. As for this game, it's discounted to $5.39, Chinese, full audio, and a bunch of other languages, including English. Ward.
Light upon the land.
Wow, I had a lot more than I thought I did.
I won't stop singing until there's world
This next game is
peace.
tagged with nudity,
My lord.
although not sexual content, which that's odd. Here we have a game on Steam called The Curse of Kubel, which this is one of those standard RPG Maker games that probably does have some nudity and sex scenes in it to sell, and in no way is actually worth it. That these are the kind of games Steam should stop letting on the storefront, and this would be just like a curator decision, frankly. But though these and the low effort puzzle games, the jigsaw games, things like that, not even the adult versions of those, just get rid of all low effort jigsaw puzzle minesweeper games. Just say we don't need these simple games on our storefront. They'd be better off without that.
Victory through steel.
If it is your turn, then put a random artifact from your deck into your hand. If you're on an opponent's turn, draw a card. I think I'm gonna lose. See, next we have a game on Steam called Terradrome Rise of the Legends, which Seems like this is monsters fighting monsters. I don't know who this is supposed to be. But would that really work if you're playing as like Slender Man fighting other monsters as a game? Frankenstein versus Sasquatch. Early access $14.99, English full audio. Well, the polish on this is not good enough. But that is an interesting idea. I mean, there have been in the past fighting games where it's dinosaurs versus dinosaurs. So I don't think that inherently that idea falls apart. Yeah, I've lost regardless. I should have attacked this guy, so it died. Yeah. No, I don't think that concept works, because if you're fighting as Slender Man, the general concept I think would be that he can't be killed by anything. So the whole idea of the game falls apart fairly quickly. If you have monsters fighting monsters. And in a funny way, that pretty much is what Darkstalkers is, not to be confused with Darksiders, the fighting game from like 20 or 30 years ago. Yeah, those characters are like cryptids and monsters fighting each other. So if you were going to do anything, why not make a new Darkstalkers? Gamato has an article here. Everwild adds Xbox Series X version and drops an Xbox One versions. This is the Eternals trailer. This is the game I was talking about with the shaman creatures that seem to bring back to life a deer and then summon this like deer god creature. At least that's my interpretation of the video. I could be wrong about it. Alright. This puts 2 fairies in my hands. Do I need fairies? Not early on, so it's better to play this. I have to remember the strategy in playing as the forest craft.
Sword. Take that.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Antarctic Heritage Trust, which seems like it's not a game at all, but perhaps just a walkthrough of an Antarctic research station. That's my guess, as like an educational, realistic design. Because I'm half expecting to see like the thing bust out, but I don't think that's gonna happen. And if this is a realistic representation of an a station in Antarctica, they need to upgrade their buildings and their equipment quite a bit. Well, it's free, so I guess that's fair. And then they're saying World of Warships is like that game, which I guess they both may have Antarctic in the name or description, so I could see the misunderstanding there by the algorithm.
How much is in it for me?
See. Next we have a game on Steam called Trace of Time, which is rated mostly positive as an action-adventure game. Yeah, this seems like one of those games where you would just have a virtual girlfriend, but then looks like there might actually be some game here too. I don't know, it's rated mostly positive. I guess I have to put this on the fall list. If I was just gonna be flippant about it, I would say this definitely looks like this is a low effort asset flip game trying to sell itself as something that's not. But maybe there is something here. $4.89 English, Chinese, Japanese. It might be just a demo. That might be the thing. Let's see. Put an elf.
Abandon me.
Put that on the field.
May the forest be at peace.
And then I'm gonna
You're done for.
evolve this just so I can
Don't push yourself. Help me,
do
fairy.
this.
This wasn't worth it.
See.
Come out wherever
Next
you
we have a
are.
game on Steam called the Ghost Train. It's tagged as a hidden object game. This looks like a asset flip game of being on a train, probably a Chinese game. And then every now and then where you'd normally see advertisements for real products, they seem to have thrown in an anime girl here and there. You can see it's mixed. If I know this is asset flippy, but honestly, this asset that they're using probably could be used in a decent horror game as one level, but I've seen it tried to be used multiple times now as the entirety of a game, and that's just not gonna do.
Let's play. Hey, let's play.
Just don't.
Let's keep on going. Still got plenty of things to
Life
talk
on the
about.
land. Better than in the cradle.
Next we have a game on Steam called Chunker, which looks like a top-down twin stick shooter game. Looks a little messy, a little bullet hellish. Just, I think, would probably be prone to a lot of visual distraction. It's early access for $12.59. That's too expensive too. English, Korean, and Chinese. Yeah, there's, I don't think enough visual polish here to convince me that I'd want to play this. So I'm gonna say no to that one. Can I do this? Not that turn. Two damage to a random character.
It won't be long now.
Attack this. And this.
My lord.
And then this.
You won't escape.
I love the feel of
And
the
then
earth.
this. And then in the turn. I think if it actually hits this timer all the way down, I think you just concede automatically. I don't think it passes the turn or anything like that, so
Come
yeah.
out wherever you are.
You actually have to pay more attention in this game than Hearthstone or Magic Arena. Although it does seem like it gives you a fairly decent amount of time, so I've yet to, maybe once I've not paid enough attention and lost one game because of that. Let's see. This,
May the forest be at peace.
and then this,
How much is in it for me?
and then this.
Hey, let's play. Stay
And then
away.
this.
All alone.
Hey, let's play.
And then this.
This'll do it. I love the feel of the earth.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Top Billiards, which looks like a bad billiards game. There's already like one pretty good billiards game that I own from on Steam, so I'm not really in the business of buying another one. $5.99 English and Chinese. Honestly, I didn't play the billiards game that I owned well enough to really justify buying another one. This
Let's play.
and this
Let's play.
and
Need
this.
a little pick me up.
And
This'll
then,
do it.
let's see.
Help me, fairy.
Then in the turn. See. Gamatsu has an article for PC and Switch. Volta X crossplay and PC limited preview event announced. What is Volta X?
Kingdom rises again.
This is a question.
I'm gonna rest for a bit.
They don't have a video or anything. So, whatever this screenshot is, looks like it's some kind of RPG if I was to guess. I can do 9 damage, so I should just win.
You're mean. This'll do it. You're too strong.
Although it does seem like playing Forestcraft is... Now I'm rank D0? How did I go from B to D? I don't know. Playing as this is slow, but I won, so I'm gonna just keep playing until I lose. That's really all we're doing today, is just playing and trying to get up in rank. Hopefully we don't fall all the way down to 0 at the end of the month, but I wouldn't be surprised. Also, there's some other things that are ending at the end of the month that I'm not sure if new things are gonna come in or what.
Time for me to prove myself.
This may have been
Perish in my
a
flames.
really good time to start playing Shadowverse, relatively speaking. Or this may have been a really bad time to start playing Shadowverse. Gamasutra has a job from Insomniac for a character TD. I guess that's technical designer in Burbank, California. We may have already talked about that job. Let's see. Gamasutra has an article here. Xbox cross-gen pledge may not apply to every upcoming first-party game. I guess that kind of is more just a speculative article more than anything else, though. Unless they have hard facts to go with it, they should probably not make that claim or even that speculation, because you can say may to almost anything. Like the Xbox Series X may be $1. Is it likely to be $1? Is there any evidence that it would cost $1? No. Gamasutra has an article. Final Fantasy XIV Online has surpassed 20 million registered users. Although viewers might be a better descriptor of a player of a Final Fantasy game. Let's see.
How much is in it for me?
Dragon Quest X, Dragon Quest 11S, Echoes of the Elusive Age, and Elusive Age Definitive Edition is coming to the PS4, Xbox One, and PC December 4th. Kind of, I think, making it pointless to try to buy Dragon Quest 11, which really, the S version feels like it only came out a couple of months after the original version came out. So yeah, it seems like they kind of double dipped, or trying to double dip as far as the sales. I can see the beginning of the end. Here we have a game on Steam called Gridiron, which looks like it's a non-AAA developer trying to make a football game, which is a football game with shields in space. This doesn't have enough polish to interest me, but the concept does definitely interest me. If there was a spunky indie development team out there that just wanted to make a football game and compete against the companies that have the NFL license, that would be an interesting amount of new competition.
Shining hope.
Kill that. And then attack here. Attack here. And attack here. Should have put these on the field, I guess.
Mighty flare, be my sword.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Chased with a bunch of periods between each letter. Says it's a survival horror. To me, it looks like an asset flip first-person horror game, using some of the same assets we've seen in a different asset flip game that came out today. They're getting so bad. $4.24 discounted, English, allegedly full audio. Nothing there worth playing. Let's see. Next we have a game called Organosphere, which also might be an asset flip first-person shooter game by the looks of it. Open world mysterious post-apocalyptic point-and-shoot adventure game in the Johannesburg, South Africa area. And it's rated positively.
You must die.
Well, either this is a low-effort game for free-to-play with no in-app purchases, or this is kind of a hidden tech demo or hidden gem. Either way, since it's free to play, if you're interested, go check it out. I don't have any need to cover it. Gamatsu has an article. Sable adds the Xbox Series X version and launches in 2021. What is Sable? There's a video here, so let's see if we can figure out what Sable is. You've got a person who can fly in a bubble and climb and jump. Kind of feels like a Zelda Breath of the Wild type game with also a flying machine. So why can he fly two different ways? And how can you have platforming if you can jump and float? Some of the movement mechanics in this game are questionable, to say the least, but there might be something there. This isn't directly video game related, but Dungeons and Dragons Adventure Begins. I think it's Dungeons and Dragons Adventure Begins, comma, lets you roleplay on a budget. So it's like a good first step into playing Dungeons and Dragons without getting deep into it. And now probably is about the best time ever to try to get your kids or your family into playing Dungeons and Dragons if you ever were going to try. But I still don't know if you should try. Yeah, this adventure begins. Setup does seem like it would be an interesting little starter experience. Let's see. Ambush. Get +1/+1. Deal X damage equal to the number of followers.
No more corpses.
I live by the sword.
No one gets
That.
past me.
This is our way out.
And that. Gamatsu has an article that says Senua Saga Hellblade 2 is set in Iceland. They announced that during the Xbox Game Showcase, which, okay, that's good to know. I don't know if that really establishes anything or changes, like, really any information that you already knew, and you kind of didn't know anything.
Don't call me short.
Wait, so do I want to hit this one, and this one?
Too slow.
Or do I want to just
No one gets
just
past me.
face?
Our way out.
At a certain point, maybe I should come in here and mute the voices. Let's see what that feels like. Because when you do damage, they do just repeat the same line of dialogue over and over again. And that does mute apparently the voices of the cards also, which that isn't really what I wanted. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of quickly makes the game very unfun when you can't hear the shoutouts. So that doesn't work.
Shadowverse.
Let's see. Yeah. While there is some adjustment you can do to the settings, there's still some stuff that's clearly needs some work on. Alright. Already attacked. Already attacked. Already attacked. Already attacked. Okay.
You beckoned.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Enefn. E-N-E-F-N. Let's see. Looks kind of like a pixel graphics game. It's supposed to be a horror game, but it seems like nothing happens. And there's like 3 screenshots I'm just cycling through.
Your flesh and bones are mine.
It's $2.99. It's got a bunch of languages. It claims full audio in all of the languages. Yep.
So this
You don't say no to that one.
should have been quicker.
Let's see. All other followers. Officer followers.
Raise your blade.
You're done for.
5, 5.
Overcome all by the Knight's Code.
I'll live again.
So here's Gamatsu's full listing of everything that was talked about at the Xbox Game Showcase. They showed a brief, barely 30-second to a minute teaser of Fable, not showing anything. They talked about Phantasy Star Online New Genesis, The Medium, the game The Gunk, which might be interesting. Tetris Effect Connected is coming to the Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and PC, alongside a free update for Tetris Effect. Warhammer 40k Darkside was also announced. Stalker 2 is getting an Xbox One version. Xbox Games Pass has Destiny 2 this fall. Psychonauts 2 is delayed to 2021 and showed off the trailer with Jack Black singing a song. Suina Saga Hellblade 2 is set in Iceland. Microsoft and Interior Night announced As Dusk Falls for the Series X and the Xbox One and PC. Obsidian Entertainment announces RPG Avowed. Grounded Early Access launch trailer was shown. Grounded is the one where it's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
It won't be long now.
Victory in sight, just as planned.
And then Forza Horizon, Gears 5, Gears Tactic, and Ori and Will of the Wisps, and Sea of Thieves will all get optimizations. A game called Tell Me Why that looked like a story much like Life is Strange, although it seems to be this time the story is going to be around at least one character who was like abused and looking into his past and doesn't remember that they were abused or something like that. I think that's the game, or maybe there was two games like this, because there was another game where two families like have a chance encounter and one family tries to rob the other family and ends up like killing all of one of the families. That might be Tell Me Why, actually. Let's see if I can think. Everwild we already talked about. Forza Motorsports announced. State of Decay 3 was announced. Square Enix and Yuja Naki announced a 3D action platformer called Balan Wonderland for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That is the one almost certainly from that new Square Enix group that was called like Balan Theater. Sable, The Falconeer, Exoplanetory, Hello Neighbor 2 announced for Xbox Series X. There was actually more announced. A lot of it I think was announced before the actual event, which I didn't watch. I think that's part of the problem here. A turn-based adventure game called Echo Generation was announced, and Watch Dogs Legion's Resistance trailer was shown. And then a free-to-play multiplayer first-person shooter called Ex Machina, and yeah, that's pretty much it, besides Dragon Quest XI-S being announced. So it wasn't really a huge announcement, or a huge amount of announcements, but each one felt fairly meaty. I wouldn't really complain about the length of the presentation or the things that were announced, other than Fable. Fable is probably the one that's been in development hell for the longest and deserved more to be shown around it. Let's see. Spell boost, summon one more. Can I do that? No.
Golly, it's chilly here. Oh.
Let's see. Gematsu has an article, The Outer Worlds, not to be confused with The Outer Wilds, DLC Peril on Gorgon launches September 9th, which I've long since forgotten about The Outer Worlds even existing. Yeah, that was a game that was somewhat well received, so there really wouldn't be a terrible argument against
How much is in it for me?
playing it at some point in the future.
You're done for. I better get a bonus for this.
You like the cold? You like the cold? I feel slushy.
I earned my fair share.
I will say Hearthstone did a very good job about not having a bunch of ridiculous sound effects play when you play a card.
My prayers.
Magic Arena,
The heavens.
pretty bad about that for very specific cards.
This wasn't worth it.
And Shadowverse is kind of more consistently bad about it in general. Destroy an enemy follower. Take that.
Light upon the land.
No.
It won't be long now.
Luminescence. Shining hope.
Let's see. We have a game on Steam called Liberated Sneak Peek, which I imagine is a demo for a game called Liberated.
I will stop you.
Yeah, Liberated not coming out until July 30th, so
My lord.
Unbelievable. No.
we have had a major drop off on the amount of demos being presented. Like, after Steam stopped pushing people to make demos, they gave up fairly quickly on that. Let's see. I've probably lost. Here's Gematsu's article for the game As Dusk Falls.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, As Dusk Falls is the one where the two families get together and one family kills the other family. So Tell Me Why is the person that was like abused, or it seems like they were abused, and doesn't remember that they were abused. Which, personally, if someone's blocked something out, it's probably so traumatic they should just be allowed to continue to block it out unless it's actively endangering them. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Stellarian 2, which looks like it's a visual novel set on a space station, but you don't see a lot of that, and it looks like there's actually some strategy gameplay in here. Yeah. I saw a review of a older but apparently very popular visual novel that was a romance sex game, and it was labeled as a visual novel, but it actually had quite a lot of strategy and RPG elements in it too. As for this game, let's see, it's $3.39, which makes it almost too cheap, and it's English full audio only. Let's see if they have the first game. No, the only other game they have is called Slay All Goblins, which is mixed. I'll put this on the fall list, but like, I think this being tagged as a visual novel may be wrong. Although this may really just be like a 5-minute game too. So at that price, there's a lot to be cautious about. Here's Gematsu's article about Warhammer 40k Darktide. Did they show a trailer? Yeah, it's just a teaser. This looks like a first-person military shooter, maybe a cover shooter. Wow. That would be, I think, something different for the Warhammer series.
My dragon and I are one.
So, there might be something to that idea. It might be the way to convince a lot of people to try out Warhammer. Just to mention how pointless the teaser for Fable 2. Fable, it's just been called a new Fable game right now. This little fairy is shown flying around for 30 seconds and then it's immediately eaten by a frog. So the fairy is just there to show, like, this is the level of graphics we've gotten the engine to run at in a pre-rendered cutscene, and that pretty much means nothing.
What a drag. Yeah.
No!
Let's see. And we have about 10 more things. 10 more tabs.
What a drag.
We have a game on Steam here called Before Nightfall Summertime, which looks like a resource survival game. Asset flip survival game, pretty much. Doesn't look like there's anything here. It's also tagged as a walking simulator for 89 cents, English and Russian. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Impossible, which I would swear that this game was already on Steam. Yeah. I could swear that this game already existed on Steam, or something so incredibly close already existed on Steam. See, it's bundled with a game called Play With Me, which is mixed reviewed. Well, I don't trust this developer one bit, and I kind of question. Like, I'm not gonna immediately throw out the accusation that they stole somebody else's game and relisted it on Steam, but something weird seems like is happening there.
Be gone.
Kneel in the shadow of my I'll devour you all.
There we go.
Embraced by the earth.
And we'll go ahead and do that. Gamatsu has an article. Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes with a Z has been announced for the PS4 and Switch. A hero chain action game due out October 29th in Japan and Asia. This probably won't come to the West, as Kamen Rider is not a well-known game or anime. It's not an anime series either. It was a Power Rangers type series, Sentai series, wasn't it? Is it Sentai? Is that the phrase? It's not, but yeah, Kamen Rider never came to the West as a kids show. Tech Raptor has an article. Halo Infinite teams up with Monster Energy drinks. I think they do that every time there's a new Halo game, so no big surprise they wouldn't continue to do that. Although, so at a certain point, if I was the person in charge of Microsoft, I'd say, hey, let's evolve our image and not try and pursue the gamer bros again.
I live by the sword.
Although that's probably the absolute worst idea possible in the case of Halo.
Not now.
If you were talking any other game, it would make sense to not court the gamer bro audience, but Halo is literally the gamer bros like favorite game. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Last Memory, which either is a artsy game that's just really dark, or it's just a low effort asset flip game. I can't for sure tell. $5.99 and a whole bunch of languages. Oops. Was it? I don't know if they were waiting for me to do something there or not.
Did what I had to.
Let's go one more game and that should be it for today. And if it is it for today, then that means we only went 2.5 hours, which is actually rather nice. But then I just am going to have to turn around and come back and play more single player content of this.
This one's for my family.
Although it would be helpful for me to wait until there's a new daily quest to do the solo player stuff. I'll show that later. Later after this game, if I remember. TechRaptor has an article that says GTA Online and Red Dead Online updates are coming. I would assume, yeah, that they're still supporting those money makers. It would be kind of crazy for updates to not show up. TechRaptor has a review for Rock of Ages 3, which I've already seen reviews and know it's a terrible game, but I figured I'd double check. They gave it a 7.0. So apparently they didn't have anywhere as much trouble as everyone else who was complaining about it on Steam. And I guess I would probably believe everyone else on Steam over one review on TechRaptor. Let's see. A strategy RPG called Live by the Sword Tactics announced for PC. Which I don't know if there's anything really here. This seems a little too simplistic. Yeah. I don't think I'd waste my time on something like that. 2 damage. Gain an empty play point. And then do I want to do 2 damage to an enemy follower? No. Game Sutra has this article. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to stop the U.S. military recruiting through Twitch. I've heard allegations that not only is the military streaming on Twitch and muting people, which then would be a violation of the First Amendment, because that is an actual government agent silencing someone's freedom of speech, but they also allegedly are putting up an occasional like sweepstakes contest link to like win a free Xbox or things like that, and then the links are just directly taking them to the military recruitment site. And if you want to say you're trying to stay apolitical, which I think Twitch would be very smart, and Amazon.com in general would be very smart to say that they want to stay apolitical. It makes a lot of sense to not let military organizations have esports teams that are streaming on Twitch. It makes a ton of sense. Because even if you are 100% pro-military, let's just assume that is pro-US military, if you're letting the US military have their esports team on Twitch, then you've got to let the Israeli military and the Russian military and the Chinese military and the Filipino military, the North Korean military. We're going to have esports teams and advertisement and propaganda and recruitment going through Twitch for every single country. And then at a certain point, then there's going to be some country that's going to be a little bit too close to the Taliban, and they're going to want to put their esports videos up on Twitch. It's not worth the headache at all for this. In general, this amendment, if it got passed, which it may get passed, it may not, there's a lot of probably more important things that they should focus on.
I am the guardian of the sky.
Would apply to all like esports and live streaming platforms. Live streaming, I guess, would also include YouTube, which, yeah, that would be fairly good. But also, I would say, if this doesn't get enough widespread support, you probably would have someone undo the bill in the next session or after the next round of elections. Some pro-military person would probably undo the rule just as fast as it gets done. And it is like, as we do want the U.S. military to have enough standing personnel to actually protect the country.
Calamity is born again.
But we also don't want them to do sleazy things and dishonest things, and the recruiters in particular are pretty bad about that. Yeah, I saw on Reddit under the unpopular opinion forum one person saying most military people are doing it for a job or for cheap college tuition or for medical service or to get out of a bad situation. Very few people are actually joining the military to protect your rights, even though that is often sprouted as propaganda. They may have the effect of protecting some of the U.S. citizens' rights by, in some small way, protecting the United States. Although one could argue they are protecting the oligarchs in the United States' interests half the time more than they are protecting actual citizens.
Oppose me and burn. A worthless endeavor.
But yeah, that is really more the case.
Yes, run away.
If we didn't have such high poverty in the United States, if people weren't broke, and if tuition didn't cost so much, you'd see considerably fewer people decide to join the military. And part of that does fall into the corrupt prosecution system too, because often people that are getting railroaded and thrown in jail are given the opportunity to join the military. At least that used to be the case. Maybe judges can't do that anymore. But I know in a previous generation there was a lot of stories of people who were given the option to either join the military or go to jail, which was implementing kind of a backdoor draft, particularly against minorities who would have been overly prosecuted, or poor people. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Ex Machina, a free-to-play mech shooter announced for the Xbox Series X. Okay. Yep. That looks like a first-person shooter. Although with Halo, I don't know how many first-person shooters can you have, really. This one's robots, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, do this, and then we do this, and then we do this, then we do this,
I'll devour you all.
and then we attack. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Respawn responds to crunch and burnout complaint posted on Glassdoor. Let's see. Glassdoor being a review site. They kind of anonymous, mostly anonymous review site of your jobs. Let's see, what's the quote here? Most every other game company has extended project deadlines to accommodate for lower efficiencies and general stresses or anxiety during COVID-19. But not on the Apex project, reads the review. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Then the response is, we currently did not have the tools, tech, or systems in place to make a smooth transition from going from a several hundred person team. So it seems like they're saying, oh, we couldn't not have more stress and more crunch because we were unprepared. Let's see. So they're basically just giving lots of excuses here if you want to read the article. Here's another quote. Are we perfect? No, of course not. Oh, I lost some points. I am losing points now. Oh, darn it. You only gain points once you get to a certain place. So at a certain point, though, good leadership would say, okay, I didn't prepare for this. We didn't plan for a pandemic, so we're just going to have to move our schedule back. We've just dropped the ball. Everybody's going to be behind, but we're not going to blame it on the employees or make the employees work hard to fix our mistakes. That's what good leadership would do. Bad leadership blames a lack of abilities or tools or setup, and then makes the employees work harder to adjust for that. And that's what Respawn seems to be doing. I was going to show something, but I forgot what it was that I was going to show. I probably should join a guild and crates. It's weird that the crate is right on the front of the screen because I haven't gotten any crates at all since the first starting playing the game. Alright, let's cover the last few games. I have about 5 tabs and then that'll be it for the stream. Here we have a game on Steam called Jets and Guns 2, which looks like it's an ugly bullet hell shooter game. Just lots of neon, lots of visual noise. $14.99 English full audio. Yeah, I could never play something like that. It's just way too much visual noise. TechRaptor has an updated article here. Paper Mario, the original, the Origami King, Chinese language version, and Toad writes. Let's see. Dialogue in the Chinese language version, at least in the original parters argue, has apparently been censored compared to the Japanese and English version. The specific scene is one in which Toad laments his lack of rights and declares that Toad abuse is happening. And then I think a bunch of Chinese people probably bullied them into putting this update to say it's not censorship when it almost certainly is. Updated has since emerged to a situation may be more nuanced than originally reported. Daniel Ahmed has addressed the altered Chinese dialogue in Paper Mario. In a Twitter thread, Ahmed said that he, quote, wouldn't call this censorship. Of course he wouldn't, because he doesn't want to cause trouble, because the translation still has connotation to protesting injustice in Chinese, and because the game has not been officially released in China. Oh, that's a terrible argument. According to Ahmed, this isn't something that was mandated by the Chinese government or regulators. Oh yeah, it wasn't mandated, it was just suggested by Tencent, who they are mandated to do business with. It really is probably making a mountain out of a molehill, though, in all fairness. In Chinese, it censors apparently to Toad wants a plain outlook and peaceful life. Which, okay, according to that tweet at least. That's minor censorship. Though, if we're going to complain about China, let's complain about the big things. Let's complain about Hong Kong. Let's complain about forced acquisition of every bit of land around their borders that they're trying to take. Let's complain about them causing and executing a Holocaust on the Uyghur Muslims. Those are much bigger things than whether a Nintendo game gets censored in their native language. Moving on, we have a game called Suicide Guy VR, which I feel like this implies there was a non-VR game called Suicide Guy, which it might have been. This looks very polished, so there might actually be a game here. It's $5.94, which is too cheap, and there is a game called Suicide Guy, which is very positive, and it's on my wish list. So they apparently made a VR version of this 2017 game, if I was to guess. That's the case. And I don't have VR, so I don't know why I would specifically put it on the follow list, but you know what, I'll do it anyways. Until I can figure out what to do with myself as far as the VR things, I might as well put it on there. And then finally we have a game called Pitcher in the Whale, which looks like it's a 2D platformer where you're trying to get water to keep the whale moist. It seems like that might be what the game is. Alright, it's free. Is this a student project? No, it's free and it's English, so this doesn't look like a terrible game, so if you want to check it out, by all means, since it's free. It probably isn't more than just one level, if I was to guess. Alright, and so then that brings me to the Humble Bundle, which I don't think there'll be any new Humble Bundles. And so I'm going to reload my Twitter feed also, so we can find out if there's anything new that came out while we were streaming. Yep, no new Humble Bundles. And then down my Twitter feed, Randy Pitchford has got tweeted out some keys. Right. Golden keys for Borderlands 3. They did a little patch update for Borderlands 3. The Ubisoft Quebec boss departs independently of the emerging allegations. I have now finally started to be willing to listen to some of the allegations, and some of them do seem pretty bad. Castle Storm 2's release date was delayed to fall of 2020. I'm just going to read some of this out loud. And I think part of the allegations against Ubisoft does, at its core, establish that there is a basically 5 brothers that run Ubisoft, and that created a system that once you got to a high level of management, you were effectively locked into that job for life with no oversight and no control whatsoever. And there's a hidden object game called Fairy Godmother Stories Dark Deal Collector's Edition, probably from Big Fish Games. A game called Earthlike 2 was announced. We'll talk about that on Monday, I guess. Viz Media apparently is printing a book called Ask Iwata Words of Wisdom from Nintendo's legendary CEO. I think it's a book. I don't know what else it would. Well, this is insane. An hour ago, G4 TV, which apparently there's a G4 TV Twitter feed where Twitter wouldn't have even existed, I don't think, by the time G4 went out of business. Apparently, G4 TV might be actually coming back. Would that work? I question that. I really, really question that. That does strike me as kind of insane. But there's a little trailer. I mean, let's just show it. Like, they're showing basically a warehouse, and this definitely feels like the art style of G4 back then. But I don't know if that art style works now. I don't know if any of this works now. If they don't bring back Adam Sessler and what is it, Morgan Webb, then they've got nothing, frankly, as far as X-Play. If they bring back Attack of the Show, they've basically got nothing with that. That they almost certainly can't bring back a bunch of the other people. That would be some insanity. Effectively, for anybody that went back and did G4, like you'd probably have to have a whole new generation replace all the on-air talent for G4, and you'd have to try to bring back a bunch of old shows and see that a bunch of them failed, and then you would have to probably try to launch new shows, and you'd probably need a lot more funding. I guess maybe if it's not actually on TV, it might work better. Is it going to be on the Paramount channel? Because didn't G4 turn into Spike TV that then turned into the Paramount channel? If that's the case, then how does Bar Rescue and Yellowstone, the two main shows that I think the two only shows that air on the Paramount channel, how do they integrate into that at that point? That's a crazy idea, but I would heavily put this in a category of this is a troll. Somebody has just made a G4 TV account, and even if it's not a troll, it's still like crazy. It's like it almost certainly is going to be a case of something that is like what MTV is now compared to what MTV was when it first launched, or in the early 80s. It's going to have very little impact. And then I spent all that time talking about the legacy of G4 and Tech TV. And talking about how really none of that made anybody famous at all. So who would really want to do business with G4? And what would really suck is if they did G4 and then they grabbed a bunch of people from all over the place that all have the stink of Gamergate or the stink of what the other awful mainstream video game journalists have on them. So if they got, for instance, Patrick Klepek or some of the people from Kotaku or IGN or even some of the Giant Bomb people, and if they brought them in and they are the new host of G4 shows, oh man, that would just really suck, because G4 was canceled before any of that came out. Although in all fairness, G4 was just a 100% shill for video games. It always was, and the new one would just be really just 24/7 advertisements for games. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe what they're gonna do is something more deceptive than bringing back a TV show. Maybe they're gonna make just small little presentations instead to replace like E3 or something like that. That would make more sense, is if there was a special edition of G4 presentations before every big event, and that was it. Yeah. Meanwhile, just as far as even the big video game YouTube channels, they seem to have all run out of money and shut down recently. More than most. So yeah, that's just really unbelievable. Well, regardless, we've managed to, in 3 hours, get all the news done, and everything is good. So that's going to be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.